We are here at SUSECon 2017, and we have with us Abby Kearns. I mean, you are, I think, one of my favorite leaders, female leaders in the open source world. I'm tempted to call you the most favorite, but since there are a lot of female leaders, people don't know. So I don't want to take any risk, so I'll say one of the most favorite.
You can say your favorite, that's fine.
Okay, I'll just say for the sake of the interview, and then I'll delete it later on. So let's just talk about, and you are also executive director of the Cloud Foundry Foundation. So let's talk about your own journey, from not, from the last life, but how you got into computers and open source, and then how you landed up at Cloud Foundry. A brief history of Abby Kearns.
Brief history of Abby Kearns. So I always really enjoyed math, and spent some time early in high school around computers, but keep in mind that was a million years ago, also known as the 80s. So, there wasn't a ton available then. And then after graduated high school and I moved away from home, and then I worked a lot of different jobs to save up money to go to college. And then I put myself through college, and when I started college, I decided that I would major in computer science because I liked math, I liked computers, it seemed like a good thing to do. So I majored in computer science. I eventually graduated with a computer information systems degree, which I actually don't think is a degree anymore. But essentially it basically took comp sci majors, math, and combined that with business experience, which I thought would be relevant. And turns out it was. I've been in tech now close to 20 years, including some odds and ends jobs I did on technical support for some small companies. Most of my career has been in the enterprise space. So I've been customer facing my entire career. And that's something that I still carry with me today, is the user idea, the user experience, and really how do we make sure that we're taking that, and that's front and center of everything that we do. And I've had a lot of different jobs in tech. I've done everything from project management to program management to product management to product marketing to technical marketing to operations to account executive to more operations to you name it. I've done the odds and ends job to do everything for enterprise customers. A lot of my early experience was on the infrastructure side, so architecting and building out data centers and infrastructure solutions, to migrating applications, to launching e-commerce platforms. And it's been interesting to watch the evolution of tech, and there's so much of it that's changed and evolved over the last 20 years, but then also there's so much that hasn't changed. And I do think that that is entirely relevant for where we sit today.
I mean, you have worked in so many capacities that I'd sometimes maybe they had to create a new position just to take you in, right? Just the way with having Cloud Foundry, Sam Ramsey was CEO, and now you're executive director, so it's like kind of new position, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think I've worked my entire career preparing me for this. Running Cloud Foundry Foundation is something I'm deeply passionate about. Not only because I love Cloud Foundry and I love the community and I love the technology, but I feel like the perspectives that I've built up over my entire career have really served me well to view it from all different angles. Because running in a foundation, you have to take into consideration not only just the health and the sustainability of the technology, but also the sustainability of the community and the ecosystem, and marrying together a lot of competitive differentiations for a common vision and a common goal around Cloud Foundry. And I like to think that it's the most interesting job right now, is really running an open source foundation, because you get to marry all of those things: the strategy piece, the user piece, the community piece, the technology piece. All of that gets married together, and I have a lot of fun with it.
You earlier said, that, you like, the feedback from customers, and interacting with, in your executive roles. With open source, we take it to the next level. You're actually talking, it's open source community. Everybody gets a soapbox, everybody gets a voice. So how has been your experience, dealing with, people, where you can, you see open discussions, open talk, on mailing lists or on forums or events like these, which is quite different from what we technically, usually see in the proprietary world or, traditional word.
It's exciting to me. Honestly, it has really opened my eyes to the power of open source in a way that I don't think I appreciated. Seeing so many different people want to share their voice and their opinion and their feedback on the technology or the ecosystem or where we can improve things is honestly so powerful. But what's also powerful is seeing users that are oftentimes competitors in commercial space, sitting down and sharing ideas on best practices, lessons learned, how they can do better. To me, that blows my mind, is watching people that are commercially competitive sitting down to figure out how to make this technology better or how to make their, the other person on the other side of the table better. And that to me is what I'd like to see beyond just, this open source project. I'd like to see it everywhere because I think that is what makes us all better technologists. But it actually solves real problems in that way. And, I like to spend a lot of time making sure that more people share their opinions, more people have a voice, every voice is heard, not just the loudest. And I think as we think about the open source, the value of open source married with a diverse and inclusive community and culture, that's going to be key to building that, is making sure that everybody's voice is heard and that we're factoring each of those aspects in as we think about where this can continue to grow.
While you mentioned diversity, that was going to be my question later on, but since you mentioned it right now, what I have noticed is that not only you, but your team members at Cloud Foundry, you go to extra lengths, to ensure that whether your events, it's very inclusive, a lot of voices from different, whether cultural background or, whether it's like male versus female or whatever it is. These days, especially after the Google Mammoth thing, diversity became, kind of huge debate. And there is a misconception or kind of interpretation that diversity means reserving certain quotas or seat for different people. But my opinion is diversity means building an environment where people from different background or ethnic background, whatever it is, they are welcome in a room. They can sit on a table and at least have a discussion or dialogue. So so from your perspective, what do you mean by diversity when you say diversity?
Well, I think diversity and inclusivity are very different things. Mm-hmm. Diversity just means that we want or hope or aspire to have people of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different genders, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different sexual orientation, different religions. That's diversity. So having those people, but inclusivity is making them feel welcome. And I think those are all very different things. And our approach, or what we'd like to think our approach is really including both diverse opinions, but inclusivity around that too. That's reflected in our code of conduct, which we take very seriously. Because for us, it really represents inclusivity, making sure that not only is everyone welcome here, but they're made to feel welcome. And not only setting aside the seat at the table, but making them, bringing them to the table and saying, your voice is important at this table. And so when I think about diversity, I think about diversity and inclusivity. And then, when I think about the power of open source, that's where the power of open source is allowing other people to participate in making their ideas feel welcome there. And I don't think we can ever say that we're solving really innovative, hard problems until we have that diverse participation, because that's where the real ideas come into play. That's where the real innovation leaps come from people that had a very different background than you or me or the other person across the table, because their perspective is going to be so unique and different, and that's where the value comes.
Can you give us some example, what measures you have or what steps you have taken, to kind of ensure or, kind of encourage diversity at Cloud Foundry?
Well, we are doing baby steps like everybody else. We have a code of conduct that we enforce pretty rigorously. Within the foundation team, so we have a team of 10 people. Majority of our employees are women. And we are working to even expand that even more. We want to make sure that everyone is heard. So we spend a lot of time encouraging more people to either submit talks through the CFP process at our summits. We have 2 a year, one in North America and one in Europe. So we spend a lot of time encouraging a wide range of people to both submit talks, as well as encouraging them to speak on the keynote stage and giving people, more people in our community a voice on the main stage. And I think highlighting that we have a very vast and diverse community is important to us, and encouraging them and making them all feel welcome and their voices heard.
Great. Yeah, we need more people like you in the open source. I mean, in tech in general, either way, but of course in open source. Now let's just switch the topic from personal life and to Cloud Foundry in general. It depends on who you talk to. So people, they always talk about the line between PaaS, IaaS, and now CaaS is kind of blurring. So if you look at
PaaS. I think we're running out of acronyms at this point.
Yeah. Everything as a service. Everything as AaaS. Everything as a service.
Everything
interview
as a service.
as a service.
Everything. I think we can go down the alphabet at this point.
Right. We start with A. Yeah. If you look at, Cloud Foundry was there before Docker containers kind of became. So if you look at today's world, when you look at, OpenStack is there, Kubernetes, and then SUSE has CaaS, Red Hat Atomic project, and then we have Docker. So what is the significance or relevance of Cloud Foundry in today's world?
The significance is Cloud Foundry is an open source platform as a service. But I do feel like that moniker is antiquated, and so I will refer to it publicly as a cloud application platform, and that's purposeful. Because the whole vision of Cloud Foundry is making it easier for a developer to get their ideas into production faster. So it's bringing that automation to the front and center and making it easier. So it has a lot of opinions intentionally so that it makes it easier, so that you are not wasting time on building together a lot of other tools and technologies. I do think all of these other technologies are important, and Cloud Foundry has always had the ethos of adopting and engaging with other technologies, particularly other open source technologies, as they become mature. So we saw that last year with runC, and then OCI is now available, so we're looking at that, but we've also are using internal to Cloud Foundry the CNI, the container networking interface. We're also collaborating on CSI, the container storage interface. We're using Docker volume plugins. So there's a huge collaboration with other open source technologies and communities because Cloud Foundry does need to evolve. It is a 7-year-old technology. It does need to evolve. It is the industry-leading open source platform, and it is open, but it also is important to make sure that technology continues to evolve and adapt and take advantage of the best-of-breed technologies. Kubernetes is the latest, with Kubo, which was created by Google and Pivotal earlier this year, donated in June of this year to the Cloud Foundry Foundation. We are allowed, that gives us a chance to bring Kubernetes into this conversation as well. So we have the elastic runtime, and now with Kubo, we have the opportunity to offer a container-centric solution alongside the elastic runtime, expanding the Cloud Foundry capabilities to a broader range of applications. And that, for us, is powerful because that allows the users to have more options, but that also allows us to continue to take advantage of amazing technology gains.
And that was, once again, you're one step ahead of me. So that was going to be my second question, that technology is moving so fast, So what are the big challenges in the way of Cloud Foundry that you see that you need to solve so that you can keep up with these new players and new entrants in the market? I mean, you did mention some, but do you see like these are the core areas that we should,
Those are some of the core areas. I think we continue to keep an eye on what's coming, what's next, and what's important. Making sure that we're continuing to really build towards that cloud native future. That's where Cloud Foundry Foundation and Cloud Native Computing Foundation are very much in alignment. Our idea of the future of application development is cloud native. So looking at those cloud native application architecture options and looking at cloud native best practices are absolutely front and center of our mind. And if that's through best of breed container technology, like through the Open Container Initiative, or if that's through best of breed storage solutions we're always trying to keep an eye out on what's next and what's coming so that we can make sure that that is part and parcel of the Cloud Foundry experience for users.
Cloud Foundry is part of the Linux, one of the collaborative projects, right? Linux Foundation also has CNCF, and they have a lot of projects, which kind of may appear like, either overlapping or kind of, they don't compete because they're like, the good thing is there is a lot of cross-pollination that happens, but do you see any kind of consolidation happening because, some of these projects like kind of try to achieve the same goal?
I don't think they always had the same goal, but I think that goals evolve. Jim Zimlin, that runs the Linux Foundation, absolutely has a broad portfolio of technologies. I would say that Cloud Foundry Foundation and CNCF, Cloud Native Computing Foundation, I like to call it our sister project. We have very complementary goals, but our objectives are very different. Cloud Foundry Foundation, I am chartered with, fostering a sustainable ecosystem and technology around Cloud Foundry and monitoring the IP and the trademark. So we're really focused on that and building that community. Cloud Native Computing Foundation is really focused on fostering an ecosystem of technologies that enable cloud native. And I view the two of us as highly complementary as opposed to competitive at all. There's so many technologies that we take advantage of and we partner with them on. And I think we'll only see that ratchet up as there becomes more and more cross-pollination, like with the Open Service Broker API project and things like that. So I'm really, really excited about the future of collaborating more with CNCF. And in OCI was another one, but some of the other projects that we obviously collaborate with are like Node and Node.js. I'm also really would like to collaborate more with the AGL, the Automotive Grade Linux, given the fact that we have so many automotive organizations that are running Cloud Foundry. I just think the Linux Foundation, and Jim Zimlin in particular, has had an amazing vision of where open source can drive technology on a broad spectrum. Right. I mean, there's, I think, close to 100 projects within the Linux Foundation that span, the ones I've just named off, but also the Critical Infrastructure Initiative. So those critical infrastructure projects that are out there, or the enablement that they do around just open source in general and the advocacy around open source and open source laws and open source trademark. Just there's a wealth of experience at the Linux Foundation that continues to blow my mind. And Jim does an amazing job of really pulling all that together in a cohesive vision.
Yeah, I mean, what Linux Foundation has achieved, like, it's amazing, and the beauty that as I said, one is the cross-pollination. Second is, you get to get all these smart people under the same umbrella. So you don't have to with like multiple different projects like OpenStack Found. I mean, I'm not taking anybody's name, but I'm just giving an example. It's very hard to bring all those people together to sit under a roof and discuss. But here you have all those people. I don't know whether Jim has a big yacht where he takes everybody, and this is the Linux Foundation. Everybody come and sit, and we'll have drinks and we'll discuss about the projects. Or
I wish. I should tell him to buy a yacht.
And it could also be like it's also from. I mean, we have not seen any such example, but it's also like Mexican standoff, all these companies who are competitors. So, they don't go after each other, they work together. So, I mean, it's really, and he has done an incredible job with that, and they have a very good team there. I mean, I've been following him before Linux Foundation was formed. So, they're doing a great job there. Now, coming back to Cloud Foundry, you're working with SUSE, because here we are at SUSECon, so. Yeah, and I think with their HP acquisition, they also acquired some Cloud Foundry related assets from HP. So can you talk about your work with SUSE?
Yeah, we're really excited about SUSE's. They acquired the HPE's people and technology around Cloud Foundry alongside the OpenStack technology and people too. For the Cloud Foundry investment, I'm really excited to see that evolve. It's really evolved quite nicely under the SUSE leadership and engineering oversight. And this week we saw the announcement of SUSE Cloud Foundry, which is part of their SUSE Cloud Application Platform offering. And I'm excited to see how they continue to build that and evolve that over time, because I think it's just going to be amazing. It's going to be our second software distribution. and our first Linux distribution that's part of both the community, but also really contributing heavily to Cloud Foundry upstream. You know, they've been involved since day one in the upstream and are continuing to invest people in the upstream project and have grown a lot of great ideas, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that unfolds. The value they bring to the table is their packaging and their wrapping of it, their ability to package it up. There's, you know, the services they put around that, the support they put around it. You know, SUSE is just well renowned for their support and their amazing team and the culture that they have here. And you know, I look forward to them really taking that, the distribution that they have, and really building on that and bringing that to the table, because I think they've got an amazing history.
Anything else you would like to talk about, or we have covered the main topics? Or
training and certification.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I can't talk about anything and not plug training and certification. So in June we launched the Cloud Foundry Certified Developer Program, which is a training and certification program. So there's self-paced training as well as a rigorous certification process. But we also have a massive open online course that's free for anyone to take that wants to get a little bit to build their awareness and some knowledge around Cloud Foundry. So it's an introduction to Cloud Foundry course. All of that is to say that we are invested both not only the long-term success of Cloud Foundry, but the long-term success of the users. Majority of the users that are using Cloud Foundry are using it to enable their transformation. And I realize digital transformation is a tired term, and we were bantering back and forth this week on what is the next term that we could use, and it kind of explains that. So if you have any ideas, let me know. But either way, it's companies that are really wanting to become software companies, that are wanting to fail faster, innovate more, be more responsive to their customers. And when they think about that, they're using Cloud Foundry to enable that productivity. And you know, with over half the Fortune 500 now running Cloud Foundry, and the momentum in the market that we've seen, you know, we're now wanting to make sure that they can have long-term success with this technology and the platform and cloud native. And so we've invested a lot in the training and certification with the expectation that this is going to allow users to build that capability up in their own organizations and build that centers of excellence and build that momentum for them so that they are successful. And so for us, as we think about this continuity, it's really building that continuity with the users in mind.
Thank you so much, Abby, the Queen in the Cloud.
Queen of the Cloud, yes.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next open source conference.
Can that be my new job title, Queen of the Cloud?
That would be awesome.